Hello dear students, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy interview guidance program. So in today's lecture we are going to discuss about a very important topic. Three of the very important topics, they are in news. So the first and foremost important topic that we are going to discuss is about the Anganwadi services, and these Anganwadi services have been recently in news because the government has provided various incentives and encouraged these Anganwadi workers to provide best of their services. So we all know that the Anganwadi services play one of the very important and instrumental role in ensuring the community healthcare or providing community healthcare services. So in this context, we will briefly understand about Anganwadi services, what role they play, and what are the measures or the steps which are announced by the government for the benefit of these Anganwadi workers as well as Anganwadi helpers. Secondly, we would also talk about the Convention on Migratory Species. So Convention on Migratory Species is in news because recently 14th Conference of Parties on Convention of Migratory Species has happened in Samarkand of Uzbekistan. Okay, Samarkand of Uzbekistan. So therefore in this context we will understand what is this Convention on Migratory Species, because understanding the details on this Convention on Migratory Species would certainly help you in your prelims examination. So after that we will also understand about the Najul land. So this Najul land is also in news in Uttarakhand because there was a controversy that has erupted when the government has bulldozed the madrasa and old mosque in the Najul land. So therefore this Najul land is also in news. So we will understand this as well. So let's discuss the first news article, or first issue that in today's lecture, that is Anganwadi services. So we all know that the Anganwadi services play a very important role in providing community healthcare services. So community healthcare services, and it especially provides healthcare, sanitation, immunization and nutrition related interventions for children who are in the 0 to 6 years of age group. And apart from the children in this particular age group, so they also takes care of the pregnant as well as the lactating mothers. So therefore in this context, it is recently in news about the Anganwadi services that the government of India has been incentivizing and encouraging these Anganwadi services as well as Anganwadi helpers by announcing to them various initiatives. So therefore overall it motivates the Anganwadi workers to provide best of their services. So we will also understand all of these about the Anganwadi services. Now literally, what is the meaning of Anganwadi services, or what is the meaning of Anganwadi? So in English the meaning of Anganwadi is a courtyard shelter. Okay, so this is the meaning of Anganwadi centers, right? So here we need to understand that the Anganwadi is a centrally sponsored scheme. So there are two types of schemes that the government announced. So they are centrally sponsored scheme and central sector schemes. So with respect to central sector schemes, 100% of the funding would be provided by the central government for these type of schemes. So however, if you look at the centrally sponsored schemes, the funding pattern would be 40:60. Okay, 60:40. So 60% of the funding for the centrally sponsored schemes is provided by the central government, and 40% of the funding will be borne by the respective state governments. So however, with respect to few backward states, the funding pattern would be 19:10. So 90% of the funding would be borne by the central government and 10% of the funding would be borne by the respective states. So if we can talk about the examples of these states, so they are mostly states in Northeast India. Okay, so states in Northeast India are example for this type of a funding pattern in the centrally sponsored schemes. So after that, Anganwadi centers have the coverage of different categories of the people. Now when we talk about the coverage of different categories, it usually covers children of 0 to 6 years of age And apart from that, we also earlier talked about this. So pregnant mothers and lactating women were usually covered as part of the Anganwadi services provided by the government. Now, the central government has started this Anganwadi services in the year 1785, and this was part of the integrated child development services. So in any rural area you can find this Anganwadi center, and Anganwadi center was established as part of the integrated child development services. Now, how they achieve this child development? Through immunization and referral services, healthcare services, and supplementary nutrition, healthcare awareness. So all these services are provided by the Anganwadi centers or integrated child development services. So essentially the overall objective of establishing integrated child development services and Anganwadis is to ensure we reduce hunger as well as malnutrition in India. Now, if you look at India's statistics, despite having one of the largest public food distribution systems such as the PDS system, so still we have been facing the problem of hunger and malnutrition. Okay, so hunger and malnutrition, because essentially India's population have been facing the problem of hidden hunger. Okay, so hidden hunger. So even though we have been taking food, the food does not have adequate nutritious material. So because of this reason, majority of the Indian people have been facing the problem of hidden hunger as well as malnutrition. So however, it is alarming that majority of the people who have been facing the problem of hunger and malnutrition are poor. So children who are below 5 years of age group, pregnant women, lactating mothers, they have been suffering with the problem of anemia along with the adolescent girls. So therefore, overall objective of establishing integrated child development services is to reduce or prevent the hunger and malnutrition. So Anganwadi centers in every rural area, even if in your village, or even if it is in urban area, you can find one Anganwadi center. So they essentially provide the healthcare facilities in those rural areas for the people. So therefore we can say that they play instrumental role in India's public healthcare system, right? So we can say that they can play instrumental role in India's public healthcare system. So apart from that, they also provide basic healthcare activities. So what sort of basic healthcare facilities or activities they usually provide? So they provide access to contraceptive counseling. Now, contraceptive counseling is very important instrument or part of family planning, and that further reduces the population explosion in a country like India. Okay, so they provide contraceptive counseling for the women members, and apart from that, they will also supply these contraceptives. Okay, so that will have an important bearing on the family planning in India. So similar to this contraceptive counseling, they also provide adequate nutrition for the pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children of 0 to 6 years of age, and education and supplementation. Okay, so not just nutrition, but nutrition education and supplementary nutrition will be provided by the Anganwadi centers. So one of the most important role that they perform is the preschool activities. So preschool activities essentially means that they provide pre-primary education. So therefore, by providing this pre-primary education, they will equip children with adequate learning abilities. So they will be prepared for the primary education by developing the learning abilities as well as the cognitive abilities among the children at an early stage. So this is the role that Anganwadis usually perform. So in this context, we need to understand the key components of the Anganwadi services. So there are certain key components that Anganwadi services usually provide. First and foremost, we need to talk about the nutrition services that they provide. So in nutrition, they provide the supplementary nutrition. Okay, so supplementary nutrition, and that the categories which are usually covered as part of the supplementary nutrition include pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children of 0 to 6 years, and even for adolescent girls also they provide the supplementary nutrition, because they have been facing the problem of underweight as well as anemia. So that would be detrimental for the health of the girl child who are in the reproductive age. So this also includes providing nutritious meals and take home rations, and even the nutritional support that Anganwadis generally extend to these different categories of individuals. So after that, they regularly conduct the health checkups, okay, for the pregnant woman, lactating mothers, and even for the children who are newborn. So therefore they continuously monitor the health and the growth of children. Okay, so another important function they usually perform is immunization. Okay, so immunization is also another very important function they usually perform. Now when we talk about the immunization function, the central government has launched Mission Indradhanush. So through Mission Indradhanush, the central government has been immunizing children from Indradhanush. Okay, so Mission Indradhanush. So through this program, the central government has been immunizing children from 7 most dangerous diseases. So in the Mission Indradhanush, for the successful implementation of Mission Indradhanush, the Anganwadi centers have they play a very important and a very significant role. Okay, so preschool education, earlier we have talked about this, that in early childhood care and education activities will be promoted in these Anganwadi centers, and that will help in achieving the overall development of children. Okay, so this usually includes developing cognitive abilities, social and emotional development of children. So this essentially means all-round development of a child. Okay, so all-round development of child. So apart from that, so they also provide health and nutrition education for the pregnant and lactating mothers and adolescent women. So awareness over these health and hygiene and even on nutrition is very important for mothers, caregivers, and even the pregnant woman, because it helps them understand the essential health practices, thereby safeguarding their respective health. So they also provide the referral services. What does these referral services exactly mean? So referral services essentially means that, so firstly, these Anganwadi workers or Anganwadi helpers identify any health related problem among the pregnant, lactating mothers and among the children. So therefore they refer the healthcare interventions, so thereby making the early healthcare interventions among these groups. Okay, so thereby providing better healthcare and reducing the maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate. So not just this, so they also ensure that the child is not malnourished and he's not facing deficiency of essential nutrients. So that is very often called as hidden hunger. So after that, for the community mobilization also, so they play a very important role, because they very often engage with the local community to create awareness about health, nutrition and early childhood development. So therefore we can say that they play a very important and instrumental role in the community engagement. So Anganwadi workers usually play a crucial role in fostering the community participation. Okay, so they play a very important role in community participation. So apart from that, they also provide pregnant and lactating women support. So support in the sense that regularly conducting health checkups, monitoring their health and supporting them with essential nutrients, and also providing counseling over good healthcare practices for the pregnant and lactating woman. So overall, that would ensure that proper care would be given for these women in the critical periods. Okay, so when they were pregnant women and lactating mothers, we can consider that it is a critical period for them and the health of a baby. So after that, they also extend essential services to the adolescent girls. So adolescent girls health is also very important, because if you look at the statistics, more than 50% of the women have been facing the problem of anemia. So therefore, in this context, it is very essential that the services have to be extended to the adolescent girls as well. So there were programs which have been targeting the nutritional and health needs of the adolescent girls, so including providing awareness and menstrual hygiene for those adolescent girls. So similarly, they would also perform the function of record keeping, so maintenance of records related to health and development of a children and mothers who are attending the Anganwadi workers. So therefore, overall it ensures transparency and accountability in the functioning of these Anganwadi centers, so thereby keeping a track on the performance of these Anganwadi centers in the community health. However, the central government has taken number of measures to support and incentivize, encourage these Anganwadi workers. So what are those measures that were launched by the central government for specifically for the Anganwadi workers? Okay, so the social security insurance schemes that were launched by the central government. So these social security schemes essentially provide insurance benefits, so have been extended to these Anganwadi workers. So in earlier lectures, we have discussed about 3 social security schemes that were launched in India by the current government. So they are Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. So this is a life insurance cover. And apart from Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, so Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, so this is also a life insurance, and Atal Pension Yojana. Okay, so disability insurance, accident insurance, and life insurance were provided under these 3 different social security programs, and they were extended to the Anganwadi workers, so thereby providing social security and social safety nets for the Anganwadi workers. So apart from that, the government has also launched Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Okay, so this Garib Kalyan package was launched as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. So therefore, those engaged in the COVID-19 related tasks, especially the Anganwadi workers in the rural areas, so they have engaged in the COVID-19 related tasks. So therefore, the Anganwadi workers and helpers are provided with an insurance of 50 lakh rupees. Okay, so this is also another measure that was taken by the central government to incentivize and encourage and even motivate the Anganwadi workers. So after that, the central government has also launched another pension scheme for the unorganized sector or informal sector workers. So that is Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana. Now, several state governments and even union territory administrations, so they have been encouraging the Anganwadis to enroll in the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana. So therefore, it is a very often a voluntary contributory pension scheme that provides assured pension after their retirement or in their older ages. So this also essentially provides social security or social safety nets for the Anganwadi workers. Okay, so this was also the scheme that was launched by the central government. So apart from that, there were several other incentives also that were announced for the Anganwadis. So the first most important incentive, that the 50% of the Anganwadi worker positions. Now if you look at the ladder of promotions for the Anganwadi workers, first Anganwadi helpers, and then Anganwadi workers, and then Anganwadi supervisors. Okay, so this is the promotion ladder. Now 50% of the Anganwadi workers positions will be filled by promoting Anganwadi helpers who have the 5 years of experience. So similarly to this, there is another provision that the Anganwadi supervisors, 50% of the Anganwadi supervisor positions will be filled by the Anganwadi workers who have the same 5 years of work experience. Okay, so this is how the promotional prospects were also announced for these Anganwadi workers. So apart from that, in order to leverage the IT, the government has launched the Poshan Tracker program for the Anganwadis. So this specifically utilizes the information technology systems and enhances transparency and delivery support systems at Anganwadi centers. So this is a tool that further enhances the efficiency and in the functioning of Anganwadis, okay, through regular tracking. So Anganwadi workers have also been provided smartphones recently. So this will automatically facilitate the digitization of their work, okay, so they can perform the tasks with ease. So they can also register the attendance, and it will not provide any scope for the misutilization of the funds or any other resources. So in this context, what is Poshan Tracker? So Poshan Tracker is usually a mobile based application, and it was rolled out in the year 2021 by the government. Okay, so this was rolled out as part of the National E-Governance Division. Okay, so National E-Governance Division, usually what it do, so it launches different digital based initiatives. Okay, so under the Saksham Anganwadi Poshan 2.0 program. So apart from that, the government has also been upgrading the mini Anganwadi centers. So the government has been upgrading the mini Anganwadi centers as regular Anganwadi centers. So this will lead to the Anganwadi workers getting honorarium from the existing mini Anganwadi honorarium of 4,500 rupees per month. So however, apart from providing pensions or promotional incentives, the government should also increase the honorarium, so or salaries for these Anganwadi workers, because they play a very important role at the grassroots level in protecting the health of women and children at an early stage. So after that, we need to talk about the resource allocation also. Resource allocation, infrastructure development, and active cooperation and engagement with the respective state governments over efficient functioning of these Anganwadi centers are some of the measures that have to be taken in near future for the better functioning of these Anganwadis. Okay, so that's all about the Anganwadi services and Anganwadi workers. So after that, we will also understand about the Nazul land. So what is this Nazul land, why it is in news recently, we will understand this. So recently it is in news that in Uttarakhand's Haldwani state, okay, so in Uttarakhand's Haldwani district, so the administration has conducted demolition drive. Okay, so here you can see that the administration has been conducting the demolition drive in Haldwani district in Uttarakhand. So this demolition drive has led to the eruption of large scale violence in the same district. So why there was a large scale violence on this demolition drive? Because it led to the demolition of a mosque and madrasa, so allegedly constructed on this Nazul land. Okay, so both mosque and madrasa has constructed in the Nazul land, and the state government has conducted a demolition drive, and that led to the demolition of mosque and madrasa, and further has led to eruption of violence. Okay, so it led to the eruption of violence. Now in this context, we will understand what is Nazul land. So this is the land that was owned by the government, but most often, so it is not directly administered as a state property. So this is the state government's property, but generally the state government it is not administered as a state government property. Why? Because there are certain reasons. So how Nazul land has emerged in India, we need to understand this context. So how exactly the Nazul land has emerged or came into existence in India. So during the British times, what happened? So during the British rule, when British often defeated the local kings and the local kingdoms, so they used to take the possession of the entire land which belonged to those kingdoms. Okay, so they used to take away the land which belonged to those kings or kingdoms. So however, after independence, what happened when British left India? So they have also given the land which was earlier taken by them from the kings. Okay, so kings and royals. So since this land does not have proper documentation to prove the prior ownership, so these lands were generally considered as Nazul land, and this Nazul land is owned by the respective state governments. So I hope you understood the concept that first when British defeats the local kings and kingdoms, so they used to take away the land which was under the control of those kingdoms. So however, when British left India, so the land which was taken away by the British from the local kingdoms, it does not have a proper documentation. So when it does not have a proper documentation, it cannot prove the ownership of the land. So these lands were called as Nazul lands, and the ownership of the Nazul land is generally with the respective state governments. So this is what is Nazul land is. Now when we talk about the administration of this Nazul land, so several state governments before tried to pass orders for the purpose of framing rules, but this Nazul land transfer rules 1956 is the law mostly used for the Nazul land adjudication. Okay, so there were previously attempts from several state governments to frame rules for the purpose of this Nazul lands. So far the Nazul lands transfer rules 1956, it is only law which mostly used for the Nazul land adjudication in courts. So for what purposes this Nazul land is generally used? So it is generally used for the public purposes such as building schools, hospitals, gram panchayat buildings, and also leasing it out to the any entity. Okay, so these are the purposes. Okay, so public purposes, these can be considered as public purposes. So these Nazul lands are generally used for these public purposes. So property lease. So the government can also give the property, the Nazul land, on lease for a fixed period of time. So generally 15 to 99 years on lease. So renewal of lease can also be done by the respective state government. However, the party have to submit the return application to the revenue department of the local development authority to renewal the Nazul land lease. Now in this context, you have to understand the government is free to either renew the lease or cancel it, taking back the land. So here the ultimate sovereignty over the land is with the state government. So because of this Nazul land and demolition of mosque and madrasa, it led to the large scale violence in this particular state. Okay, so this is all about the Nazul land. So the next a very important topic that we are going to discuss now is about the Convention on Migratory Species. Now Convention on Migratory Species is one of the most important and fundamental conventions that protects both both birds as well as the terrestrial animals. So especially it deals with the species who have been migrating from one jurisdiction to the another jurisdiction. Now why Convention on Migratory Species is in news recently? So it is because recently the 14th Conference of Parties, so otherwise called as COP14 to the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, held recently in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. So we all know that where is Uzbekistan is located? It is located in the Central Asia. Okay, so this is COP14 of the Convention on Migratory Species. So that was held in Samarkand, Uzbekistan 2024. Okay, so because of this reason, the Convention on Migratory Species is in news. So what is the overall objective of this particular convention? It is envisioned at the conservation of migratory species. So that includes the wild animals and even the birds as well. So this Convention on Migratory Species is also called with another name, that is Bonn Convention. Okay, so please remember, the Convention on Migratory Species is also called as the Bonn Convention. Now in the year 1972, as part of the Stockholm Conference, so Stockholm Conference 1972 is also very important. Okay, so please remember this. So this Convention on Migratory Species was launched as part of, or it began as part of, the Stockholm Conference of 1972 Human Environment. So however, so this Convention on Migratory Species was launched in the year 1979 in Bonn, Germany. Okay, so however, when we talk about when it was entered into force, the convention has actually entered into force in 1983. The secretariat of the Bonn is or a Convention on Migratory Species is managed by the United Nations Environment Program, and the secretariat is based in Bonn, Germany. So however, it has two major aims. The Convention on Migratory Species has two major aims. So firstly, it provides a global platform for the conservation as well as the sustainable use of migratory animals and their habitats, right? So therefore, it provides a global platform for the conservation and sustainable use of migratory animals as well as their habitats. So the second most important objective of this particular convention is it lays the legal foundation for the internationally coordinated conservation measures throughout the migratory range. So these two were the most important aims of the Convention on Migratory Species. This Convention on Migratory Species covers the birds as well as the terrestrial animals. Okay, so because they used to move from one jurisdiction to the another jurisdiction, so therefore all the countries which have to protect these wildlife species. So this Convention on Migratory Species is the only global convention, and this has been specializing in the conservation of migratory species, their habitats and their migration routes as well. So if you look at these wild animals, so they have a specific migratory route and their habitats are also different, and there are different species who usually migrate from one place to the another place. So therefore, it is the only global convention that has been specializing in the conservation of migratory species. So after that, we need to talk about the parties which are part of this particular convention. So as of now, there were around 133 countries which both signed and ratified this Convention on Migratory Species, in which India is also part of. So however, recently Jamaica has signed, but it has not ratified to become a party. So in order to become a party to this convention, so every country must sign and ratify this particular convention. Okay, so the organization Conference of Parties is the highest decision making body of the Convention on Migratory Species. So the Convention on Migratory Species has also established a trust fund. So in this trust fund, each party shall contribute to this budget according to a scale to be agreed upon by the Conference of Parties. Okay, so the listed species, so around 1200 species are listed in two appendix as part of the Convention on Migratory Species. Okay, so 1200 species in two appendix as part of the Convention on Migratory Species. So firstly, appendix 1. So appendix 1 essentially contains the endangered migratory species, and appendix 2, it contains the migratory species which are already conserved through various agreements. Okay, so please remember, it contains two appendix 1 and appendix 2. Now in this context, birds occupy the first position with respect to the conservation as part of the Convention on Migratory Species. Okay, so birds usually occupy the first place, followed by the terrestrial mammals. Okay, so this is how they used to prioritize the migratory species as part of the Convention on Migratory Species. So that's all for today in this lecture. And if you really like a video, like our work. So please like the video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any suggestions and doubts over this lecture, please comment those in the comment section. Thank you.